Hello everyone, welcome to weekly SIG Autoscaling meeting for Monday, 26th May 2025. We've got 4 items on the agenda at the moment. Adrian, do you want to start?
I put this on waiting for me to get back. I'm back, and now we're waiting for Ray to get back, and here he is on the Zoom call. So we wait 30 seconds for him to join.
For him
Ray,
to frantically go live, I joined it immediately, had my name entered.
we said Ray's name 3 times, so he appeared.
That's why I'm here.
on a day off as well. I was actually wondering if we should move this to an asynchronous discussion, but since you're here, I put this on a while back, waiting for myself to return, and now waiting for you to return. When we make changes to the VPA, a question I'm often asking is, do we need to worry about similar concerns that we need to worry about in Kubernetes? So things like backwards compatibility, upgrading, downgrading, all those sorts of things. And my assumption is some of those decisions were made for Kubernetes that don't apply to us. And potentially some of those things we don't need to do because it's a smaller, more iterative project. Downgrades are easier. But at the same time, we obviously want a project that is high quality and works the way users would expect them to work. So I'm bringing this up because I often ask these questions, not really to show what the answers are. And I think we should figure them out and then potentially write them down. So I'm wondering if I should maybe just file an issue with the VPA label and then we can chat about it asynchronously.
Yeah, I guess that would be a good idea, but I have been anchoring on the Kubernetes guidance for this type of question, just because I think that's the bar we should be holding.
Yeah.
But I think maybe on like a per issue basis, we can talk about it. It's kind of weird, right? Because this guidance, I believe, doesn't apply to things like alpha features. Like you shouldn't have to, allow this clean downgrade with alpha features, for example. But yeah,
Well, I think the reason for that is if somebody has an alpha feature that they have chosen to enable, it means downgrading might literally be impossible. And I think
correct.
There's a moment in time that you kind of have to accept that you can't downgrade. But the idea is to allow for a clean path as reasonably possible. I think your take is good, and I think that's probably a good guideline. I think what I'll do is I'll start an issue for discussion, even if the conclusion is we follow what KK does.
Sure.
Then it's written down, and then we can make a pull request into the README and just say, for development purposes, this is the guidelines.
Yeah, sounds great.
Cool.
I think there's like one major difference between KK and VPA, right? And that is VPA uses CRDs. So, I mean, KK doesn't have them. You like either upgrade or downgrade and you get like the CRDs. Here, it's two things. Like one is upgrading VPA and the other thing is upgrading the CRDs. And like downgrading CRDs is usually not a thing. Yeah, people just always say it's not allowed, it's not supported. It's like you can try to migrate them yourself, good luck. But this is just not a thing like supported by any projects I know at least. But for the controllers themselves, this should work. Yeah? They should be able. You should be able to do an upgrade. You should be, I guess, able to do a downgrade. But if you're already using features that are only available in the new CRD version, then, well, it's up to you, right? But if you're still on the old CRD or like not using anything that the new CRD brings, then this should work, I guess.
And I guess, that is a good call out. It is one of the major differences. I think when I create the issue, I'll call out that you've mentioned that because maybe it does change the conversation a little bit. I'm not sure. Cool. I'll make an issue. I'll leave it in the doc, and I'll also paste it in the VPA channel, and then we can kind of see where it goes.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
But yeah, the CRD callout it's pretty big. That is quite a big difference. Cool. Thanks,
Yeah.
Rob.
Yeah, there were definitely discussion, like I think some of those same aspects of discussion around the CRDs and what the promises are around them with at KubeCon at the Maintainer Summit Day. So I'm not
Are you
sure.
talking about the gateway API stuff that was right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
do we
like
include
what does an official CRD mean? Like what does that cut? What promises then come with that? Because of the
that's a good
different
point.
user experience.
Yeah, it's probably worth us keeping an eye on that discussion because we kind of fall in the same boat.
Cool. Hashem, is not here today, but I think worth calling out. He'll be working on promoting configurable tolerances to beta in 1.34. I guess given that we're on the subject, I think worth calling out as well that we want to start rebooting some of the discussions around other bits that we want to get done for HPA in 1.34. I feel like probably best to have an async discussion, maybe kick it off in the SIG Autoscaling APIs channel around what we want to do around scale to zero. Since I think we tried to squeeze that into 1.33 and then realized there was a pile of like slightly hairy stuff there of like, actually we need to rework this. It's never really gone through full KEP, I don't think so. Yeah, I think might be, I think there's some decisions we need to make there, but I think best to have those in a written form, and anyone interested can sort of weigh in on them.
I pinged the issue yesterday because I'm curious if the original author is still willing to do that work.
Yeah.
He was one release ago, but things have gone quiet since. So we might, if he doesn't reply, we might need to pick up a volunteer for that.
Yeah, I think as well, it's it may be a case of like we've not quite figured out yet what work we do need to do, whether it needs to go through another alpha phase before we can progress it to beta. That is my current suspicion.
Last I remember, we do need to go through another alpha phase because I think the KEP had changed from what the development work had happened. So
yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Adrian, do you mind just sending me the issue you pinged on that? I'm curious.
Yeah.
We are actually very interested in this scale to zero topic. Like I have a bunch of ideas here, so I might tack on to that one or open a separate one for a discussion. We can figure that out.
Cool.
But yeah, I have a feeling.
Through...
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool.
Sweet. Jay Betkier, I don't think we have here. Buffett API, creating a proposal for an official proposal. Don't know if anyone has any thoughts they want to discuss on this today or push out to next week.
I think that was mentioned already on some of the previous SIG meetings, and the item here is just about moving that from docs to a PR, basically.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll leave it in just in case we want to discuss it more later on, but cool. Daniel?
Yeah, so a topic that we discussed, I think, some time ago. So we have Cluster Autoscaler repository, which has integrated support for dozens of cloud providers today. And we generally agree that all new integrations should happen through gRPC. We should not be adding more. But if somebody wants to implement a cloud provider that is integrated with CA, they don't have a clean way of doing that. There is no way to import autoscaler libraries without like having to depend on all those, like having to pull in all those other cloud provider dependencies. So I wanted to like check if it would make sense to just extract those core libraries somewhere. My thinking was that could be a separate repository for similarly to what Carpenter I think is doing, where they have core libraries in one place and their cloud provider implementations are independent from that. I don't think we should be deprecating the existing cloud providers. That's like the extracting of those core libraries would not affect them, at least not initially. We may want to discuss deprecation path later on, but for now, I only wanted to figure out if it makes sense to just do that step of extracting the core cluster autoscaler code, and like what would be the path to do that.
I think my opinion has been that I think longer term we should be looking to like deprecate the hard-coded entry cloud providers. I think it provides like just causes us quite a lot of pain, and sort of starts pushing out that responsibility for maintaining them to the support cloud providers or community where cloud providers aren't willing to support it. How painful do we think that just the initial step of extracting those libraries would be? How much work do we think it would be to do that, and how much toil? Like, what would the difference be for toil in terms of going forward, in terms of like maintaining the code, that core code, and then integrating it into the releases for the time that we still supported, like, or as long as we supported cloud provider specific being implementations being hard coded.
I didn't try to scope it yet. I think the main things is just setting the repo. Moving code should be relatively straightforward. We already have cloud provider code mostly in one like isolated. There are some bits that are not, but it's not a large amount of code. So I think setting up new repo, all the automation that like making sure like pre-submits work and stuff like that, like pre-merge stuff works. So yeah, I don't have a good estimate, so I'm just listing things I think we need to take into account.
A bit. And you.
Yeah. So would the right next step be to prepare some more detailed plan of doing this, or should we just like go ahead and figure out as we go, like what are the next steps? Like what's the best? What do you think makes sense to proceed with that?
I feel like it's worth us at least creating an issue and talking through like what we think the changes to development and development flows would be first, at least like the core scenarios of changes and things we make, just so we have an understanding. And then I think, yeah, as long as we've got a good understanding of that, then we can go about looking at what the work required to enable it would be, and then we can go about like requesting the repo, any associated infra supporting infra we might need for that.
Okay, so it's like basically start from figuring out what the end state look like and how it will impact developing the component.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks.
Thanks. AJ.
Hi. I intend to present a proposal that's been provisionally accepted at Node. I'm representing SIG Node today. Could you share me permissions to share my screen? I just wanted to. Okay, I have permissions.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. So this is a proposal on Node readiness gates. Like right now, Node has like a single ready condition, which expresses that the kubelet in itself is ready, and it also would do like a runtime check and basic CNI configuration is present. The proposal we have that you're working on today is having this more extensible. So the components on the node should be able to express their readiness status on the node itself. The would be like a declarative mechanism. So administrators should be able to specify what means the node to be ready, and workloads would be able to be start on the node. That this would be expressed as gates. The idea is similar to pod readiness gates. That I mean, even though it's a different mechanism, the idea is to have like specific readiness gates that matches components readiness or operational state on the node. And this is needed for a variety of conditions. For example, like network is ready, like many times when there is like a CNI is not ready, pod lands on the node, and it ends up with pod failing on necessary conditions and situations like service mesh where service identity needs to be established before the workloads could be laid on the node, create complications. So this basically aims to connect the gap between these, what's really on the node and what's seen of the node from outside of the, other components like scheduler or other Kubernetes components that would subscribe on the status. So I'm here to discuss this. I have a shorter time. I'm here to discuss like the high level API, and then see if there would be any necessary cluster autoscaler changes or gotchas I need to be aware of, or like I need to include while we are planning this for 1.34 alpha. So the API would look like this. The spec would carry specific conditions. In this case, Cilium ready is an expected condition on the node. It could be like a storage driver ready or like a GPU DRA driver ready. Like once the installation is completed, the plugin in itself would post the readiness condition on the node status. Scheduler would, it would be a plugin that would expect to see the declared readiness gates are met on the conditions that are available on the node object before assigning pods on the node. That's a high level idea. I see that from cluster autoscaler point of view, it would need to determine whether the node is ready. And I think that like for GPU conditions, there were some, it's been achieved with some labels, and there was also a proposal I noticed for CSI expressing whether the volumes are ready, that a scheduler and cluster autoscaler should be aware of to do that. I'm just like trying to make this more generic, and what would be the immediate goals that we would need to solve for cluster integration, and thoughts further on this basically. So I'm just like I'm short on time and wanted to have some time for feedbacks. Probably could discuss this further on a question and answer basis. Yeah, Daniel, I see hands up.
Yeah, I'm wondering, because we have a couple of custom mechanisms in cluster autoscaler. There's the idea of startup taints, and I think Carpenter has a similar concept. So did you think, like, what's the migration path for custom, like, people using those today? Is it like, do you expect those mechanisms to work together, or like the one to deprecate, like be deprecated in favor of the other eventually?
I mean, the end goal is that like not every third party agent would need to bring in their own controller to manage it. The readiness gates mechanism allow a failure action when like a timeout expired and the readiness condition wasn't achieved within that time. The node would post like a timeout status, and the taint will be set on the node, matching that specific condition. This would allow that existing controllers are basically like it would follow the current existing mechanism on a taint-based recovery if there is like a maybe maintenance mechanism that would watch for that taint to follow. I think that would be like a migration path, but the end goal is that like every agent doesn't need to bring its own controller to achieve this installation or readiness state establishment in the cluster.
Okay, so taints as a mechanism of making sure that the node is really, really ready would stay, and that would, like the proposal here would only apply to selected controllers.
I see there is existing way of achieving with taints, but this is just for the prerequisites flow. The taints is more of a maintenance mechanism or more categorical, whether this is GPU or whether this is certain nodes. This is for that initial readiness. Basically, there need not be like multiple controllers managing different taints. For the prerequisite flow, this readiness gate is an alternative I propose. Current existing taint-based mechanism would still work, but by making those taints as a readiness taint, it would be like a seamless migration path. There would be like existing mechanism in scheduler itself that would manage that would ensure that like the prerequisites are met. So a separate taint-based controller would not be necessary.
Okay, thanks.
I think that like quick idea I just wanted to ask was on this aspect. Do you folks see any changes that need to be added, or anything that's from CA I need to handle, or something that feedback I need to consider from CA perspective, other than the migration path?
So one more thing is, I think there was some work around DRA integration that would replace the current way we handle GPU initialization in Autoscaler. I haven't seen the code. I'm not sure how it's working, but I think it would make sense to see how those two mechanisms work together.
Got it. Okay, I'll follow up with device management folks on that. I think that I have linked to the doc here. Please take a like find time. Please leave your feedback or thoughts on this later, and appreciate your feedback.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
So, that's us at time. So thanks very much, everyone, for your time, and see you all next week.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.